Hi, my name is Lydia Bradshaw. I'm a current student at Delmar High School, and I like helping at poverty-stricken areas. One of my inspirations for doing so is Samuel Johnson, who once said, "Poverty is a great enemy to human happiness. It certainly destroys liberty, and it makes some virtues impracticable and others extremely difficult." Barbara Ehrenreich, the author of Nickel and Dimed, which was written 17 years ago, presents how little has changed in the workforce, in everyday necessities, and poverty. In the workforce, one of the biggest issues is inequality with genders and ethnicities. White people are twice as likely to be accepted to a job than African American. George, who was an immigrant and couldn't speak English, was one of Ehrenreich's friends, but was accused of stealing from the storage room. And even though he may or may not have been actually doing so, he was never given a second chance due to the fact that he was an immigrant. All of her managers were white and male, and of course she had to suffer the wage gap due to the fact that she was female and was paid less. Another obstacle were the benefits. Many of Ehrenreich's coworkers were not offered benefits, and one of her coworkers, Holly, who was visibly unwell and even sprained her ankle, did not take any of these benefits because she would be penalized for it. And it wasn't as if the pay was worth it anyway. Minimum wage is $5.15, and even though it has increased, it is now only $7.25, which is not substantial enough for your everyday necessities. An everyday necessity would be something like family care, which Ehrenreich had many coworkers that had families. For example, Maddie, who had young children, and she had to find someone who wasn't qualified to babysit her children only because she couldn't afford a daycare for them. And the cost of children have increased 40% since then. Another necessity is healthcare, which has tripled since 2001, and 25,000 people do not have healthcare, which means 41.2% of people are without healthcare when they most need it, such as Barbara's coworker Lucy, who was suffering with leg pain but could not afford health insurance. Another thing is the gas cost. Back then, in 2001, it was only $1.90, and now it has increased to $2.49, and gas is needed to be able to even get to your job, which does not help when it is even costlier. One of the most important necessities, however, is food, and Ehrenreich had to go get food vouchers because she was so desperate for food and couldn't afford enough. And about 17.3 million people at her time could not afford food and had to get food stamps. And now 40.3 million people need to have food stamps. And the cost for food has increased since 2001, which then would only be $20 for a couple groceries, would now be $28.90 for groceries. Adding together low wages and a high cost of living results in poverty. And in 2001, poverty was 14.5%. And since then has now increased to 18.5%, especially because of the recession in December of 2007. In conclusion, Barbara Ehrenreich, the author of Nickel and Dime, presents how little has changed in the workforce, in everyday necessities, and in poverty throughout 17 years. Her book has brought an awareness to poverty and low-wage workers, and in hopes of improving these conditions, consider volunteering at your local shelters. And as Ehrenreich once said,